Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be doing another blind taste test rankings video. Now the way these videos work, for anybody that's not seen one of our previous blind taste test rankings videos, is we have a number of cups of coffee over here and a number of bags of coffee over here, and we try to identify which of those cups is which of those bags based off of taste alone. Then we rank them in order of our favorites to our least favorite. This video will be a little different. As you can see, we have no bags of coffee over here, and that is because all the coffees featured in this video were samples that were provided to us. So I wanted to give a major shout out to and thank you to Nathan V, as he provided the majority of the samples that will be featured in today's video. And since we have no bags of coffee, I will not be trying to guess which coffee is which, but this will rather be my reaction to trying all of these coffees for the first time, and I will still be ranking them in order of my favorites to my least favorite. So let's go ahead and introduce all the coffees that will be featured in today's video, and I'll go ahead and discuss them each a little further as we go through them, beginning with the Finca Bitalina, the natural processed Panama from Botz Coffee out of Whiting, Indiana. And that coffee is actually the biggest catalyst for the entire set of samples that were sent to us, as I was extremely interested in trying that coffee. Unfortunately, it sold out before I had an opportunity to purchase it, so Nathan V was nice enough to send us a sample of that coffee, and I'm very fortunate to have an opportunity to react to it for the first time here today, as I'm definitely looking forward to trying that one. A lot of people know that it is the Baja Blast coffee, and I'm a big fan of Baja Blast, as this one does have a Baja Blast flavor note, so I'm very curious to see how that one turns out. Next up, we have the Paz Heirloom, the wash processed Honduras from Rosso Coffee Roasters out of Portland, Oregon. And I was extremely curious in this coffee when it was first released. However, once again, it sold out before I had an opportunity to try it. So we did try a different Paz coffee from Hart this year, which I had some kind of mixed reaction to. This one is still a very interesting coffee, as it is, of course, an Ethiopian heirloom varietal. And for that reason, I was very curious in trying it, but we will see how it performs in this video today. Next up, we have the Janson Lot 359, the washed Panama from Manhattan Coffee Roasters out of Rotterdam, Netherlands. And this is the first washed Panamanian Gesha that is featured in this video. And I feel like it's my first time trying any of Manhattan's Janson Panamanian Gesha since they switched from the Pro Batch to the Typhoon. So that'll be interesting in itself, and I'm very curious to see how that one compares to the other washed Panamanian Gesha. Next up, we have the Pepe Jijon syOxidator Sidra, also from Manhattan Coffee Roasters out of Rotterdam, Netherlands. And that was the secondary reason for receiving these samples, because Nathan did want to send us a sample of that, as well as one from Thankfully Coffee, which we will discuss a little later. But it's going to be my first time trying that one. As a lot of people know, I'm not the biggest fan of Sidra coffees, and that's why I haven't made too much of an effort to find that one and purchase that one. But let's go ahead and move on to the Lerida Gesha Washed Panama from Minmax by BK. And this will actually be my first time ever trying any coffee from Minmax. We do have our second washed Panamanian Gesha on the table here as well. So I'm very curious to see how those compare to each other, but it'll be very interesting just in general trying Minmax for the first time, as I do have the coffees we had purchased from them resting, and I have not opened those up yet. Next up, we have Lost Origin Lot 86, the natural processed Panama from Rosso Coffee Roasters out of Calgary, Alberta. And this one's interesting because I've never tried any Lost Origin coffee, mostly because I've heard mixed reactions to those coffees in general. In addition to that, I've never tried anything from Rosso Coffee Roasters, so that'll be a first on both of those counts. Next up, we have the Finca Bitalina, the wash processed Honduras from Say Coffee. And I'm not entirely sure why the sample was included, but since it was included, we're going to go ahead and toss it into this video. I haven't heard anything about this coffee from anyone, so I really don't know what to expect from that coffee. And then last, of course, we have the Pepe Jijon syOxidator Sidra, the syOxidator wash processed Panama from Thankfully Coffee out of Auburn, Alabama. And once again, it'll be kind of interesting to compare and contrast it with Manhattan's version of that coffee as well. All right, so not that it matters since I'm not trying to guess on these coffees, but I'm still going to go ahead and shuffle them around just for good measure. And it does give us an opportunity to discuss what we have on our hands here today. And we'll start with the big ones, the two washed Panamanian Geshas, as I do fully expect those to be my two favorite coffees in this video. Outside of that, we have two washed Honduran coffees, though I think in theory and on paper they should both act a little different, as one should in theory have some Ethiopian-like characteristics. And then outside of that, we have those two syOxidator coffees, one of which from Thankfully and one of which from Manhattan. And then last, we have the two non-wash processed coffees, that of course being the Lost Origin and then the natural processed Panamanian Gesha from Botz. I do have to say that that is probably the biggest wild card, that coffee from Botz, because if it does end up tasting like Baja Blast, it'll probably be my favorite coffee, unless one of those Panamanian Geshas does have just some immense clarity, florals, and really nice fruit components to it. So that's what I'm looking forward to here today, and trying some new coffee roasters for the first time, and just trying a bunch of different coffees. So we'll go ahead and move these here out of the way for the time being. And there's no pressure on me in this one, given that I'm not trying to guess what these coffees are, but I'm still gonna maybe take some notes and stuff as I go through each one of these. Well, let's go ahead and start with this one right here, cup number 1. Okay. We're off to a good start. This one right here is going to be one of the wash processed coffees. And it is pretty, I would say, delicate. It does have some nice sweetness on the back end too. I think I have an idea of what this coffee is, but if it is what I think it is, it's performing pretty well for what it is. A lot of positives on this one. I'm going to put it right here for right now. Pretty good start. All right, let's go ahead and move on to cup number 2. Okay, this one right here, even though I'm not taking guesses, this one's Lost Origin. And I know that because when I was brewing these coffees, Lost Origin had a very distinct aroma to it. It did have a little bit of funkiness, and for that reason, I knew that I was going to be able to pick it out when it was on the table. It has a little bit of harshness in the finish to it as well. I'm not necessarily enjoying that part, so it's definitely first place, second place for right now. I think there's a very strong difference between my preferences on these two coffees. All right, cup number 3. This coffee does have a very lingering finish to it too, because I think I'm still going to be tasting this coffee as I try this sample. Which is kind of unfortunate, because I think this coffee is actually very nice. I'm going to put it right here for right now. Great clarity, great cleanliness to it. I'm still kind of taking in a lot of the harshness from this coffee as it's been present within the finish. All right, let's move on. Cup number 4. And this one's also very nice, also very clean. I'm gonna put it right here for right now. I might reorder these. I think maybe I wanna flip these two, but this one is turning out pretty nice as well, very clean. And I would say that this one's a little bit more delicate too compared to some of the other ones. Even then, it is really nice within the finish itself. All right, cup number 5. Oh, okay. And this one right here is going to be our Baja Blast coffee. And it kind of has that just very distinct Botz coffee feel to it. I'm kind of disappointed that I have a couple of more processed coffees on this table, because it's going to make it kind of difficult to taste anything after them. But this one right here, as I mentioned, it does have that kind of Botz intensity to it that I've experienced from something like the SyOxidator. So this one definitely reminds me of Botz coffees of the past. And even then, it's very sugary, and it's cleaner than what I was expecting, given that it had a very intense aroma to it when I was brewing this coffee. Even then, it's turning out very nice. So I'm going to put it right there for right now. Once again, I'm not taking guesses on these coffees. I'm just pretty confident that's what that one is. All right, cup number 6. Okay, this one right here, it might still be better than Lost Origin. It isn't necessarily standing out to me as of this moment. It's fine. I think I'm not the biggest fan of the finish to it either. It does have some lingering herbal finish to it. All right, let's move on to cup number 7. Okay. I think this one right now is actually my least favorite. And I don't like the finish within that coffee either. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's got a very vegetal finish to it. All right, and then last, cup number 8. And this one right here is actually my least favorite. And it's interesting that we went in that direction. That one tastes a little papery, so I'm wondering if maybe there was some brewing error with that final coffee, but I'm not the biggest fan of that coffee, and I don't necessarily enjoy the way that it finishes either. So let's run through them one more time. I just want to see if I want to change the placement of any of these coffees. So I think that these were our non-wash coffees. I'm going to wait for them last. I'm happy with the placement of these last two. I think that they're by far my least favorite of the two. Let's try this one. I don't know if there's kind of interesting actually on that second run through. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually happy with the way I placed all those. I do like the finish in this one. Maybe the best though. Interesting. Okay. I think I'm happy with the placement. So I'm just as curious as anybody to see where they all finished, but let's see what we do have. So they're labeled by the coffee roaster and then the origin. So we'll see what we have. So that one right there is the Honduras. Interesting. I had much higher expectations for that coffee. Once again, possible brewing error. It does taste a little papery to me, which isn't necessarily ideal. I think it's the oldest of the coffees that are on this table. All of these, for the most part, were, yeah, all of these actually were frozen. They were sealed and frozen, and I had them in my freezer since receiving these samples, but definitely had higher expectations for that coffee. All right, let's see what's in 7th. And so thankfully coffee, Ecuador. Let me try this one more time. So this, of course, is the syOxidator Pepe. I mean, I kind of said going into this that I'm not the biggest fan of Sidra coffee, so I haven't necessarily made it a huge point to go out and get these coffees. So that right there, 7th place. Let's move on to this one right here. Oh, it's reveal time. So we have the Manhattan, Ecuador. Interesting. That is very interesting to me that both of these Pepe coffees finished where they did. Once again, I was not necessarily overly excited about the release of those two coffees, as I definitely have a very strong preference towards those Mejorados, but it's just very interesting to me that that's exactly where they finished, and they were kind of close too. So interesting where those two did. Next up, this one right here should be the Rosso Panama, so it should say RP. Yep. And even though I'm not trying to take guesses, this one was as blatantly obvious as possible. It's fine. I think that maybe given that it just had a little bit more characteristic to it than, I guess, a little bit more character than some of these other 3 coffees, that's why I placed it right there for right now. Honestly, these 3 are kind of in the same range. This one is easily my least favorite. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So this one right here finished 4th place. What do we have? And this is the Manhattan, Panama. So this is the Janson Gesha. That's kind of interesting. Now that I know what it is, I can see it. It's definitely got some tea-like components to it. I expected this one to perform a little better than it did, but yeah, that's where it finished, 4th place. All right, let's move on. So we have 3 coffees left, and this one right here is the, what is it, Say Honduras. That's actually pretty good for this coffee, I would say. And once again, kind of going through it now, I can kind of see a lot of the same characteristics of this one. Now that I know what these coffees are, of course, it's coming a little bit more to the forefront. But yeah, not bad. Which is kind of interesting because massive credits to Minmax. For a first time trying it, they did very well, finishing 2nd. Minmax Panama. Wow. Good job to Brian. That's kind of interesting because I would say that typically speaking, I've had better experiences with washed Janson Geshas than I have with Lerida Geshas. So given that this one performed notably better than the other ones on this table, the wash processed coffees, that's very interesting. So good job on that. And then 1st place, of course, we have the Botz Panama, the Baja Blast coffee. I actually really like that. And I'm glad I have a couple more samples and doses of that coffee. That's actually really good. I'm surprised that that one did end up living up to the hype because I did have some very high expectations for that coffee. But I do have to say, very, very good, both of these two. Pretty good, good, and then not the biggest fan of these 3, and then I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of that one. But yeah, that's kind of it for this blind taste test. I'm going to leave it at that. If you guys do enjoy these videos, give them a like. As I always say, they take the most amount of time to do, but they're definitely the most fun to do as well. If you're enjoying the content in general, give this video a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a blind taste test rankings video featuring 8 samples that were provided to us. Thank you for watching.